The Camel didn't announce itself with elegance. It arrived like a knife thrown upward, biting into the sky so hard that even seasoned pilots felt their stomachs drop when they first saw it twist through clouds and smoke. In the winter air above the Western Front, engines screamed like wounded animals, and men learned quickly that the sky was no longer a place of freedom. It was a hunting ground. Long before it earned its reputation as the most lethal dogfighter of the war, the Sopwith Camel was dismissed as unstable, overpowered, and dangerous. Dangerous not just to enemies, but to the men who flew it. Its engine torque could snap a pilot into a spin if he hesitated for even a heartbeat. Its short fuselage punished mistakes. Its twin Vickers guns snarled with violence inches from the cockpit. And yet, once mastered, it became something else entirely. A predator. In 1917, when the Camel entered frontline service, the balance of air power was fragile. German aces ruled the skies in disciplined formations, their Albatros fighters slicing through Allied patrols with methodical precision. British pilots died young. Some never lasted a week. Others never even fired a shot. The Camel changed that. It didn't fight by the rules. It turned faster than anything in the sky. It climbed brutally. In the hands of a fearless pilot, it could flip from defense to attack in a blink, nose dropping, guns flashing, enemy wings shredding under sudden fire. But this story is not about a machine alone. It is about the men who strapped themselves into its narrow cockpit, felt the vibration shake their bones, and chose to trust a violent little aircraft with their lives. Every single time they pulled back the stick. Training on the Camel was less instruction and more initiation. Young pilots arrived at the airfields expecting something heroic, sunlit takeoffs, noble duels, clean victories. Instead, they found cold mud, sleepless nights, and instructors who spoke in warnings rather than encouragement. Respect the torque, they said. Don't fight it, ride it. And whatever you do, never hesitate. The Camel's rotary engine spun with ferocious force, dragging the aircraft sideways the moment throttle was applied. Left turns were lightning fast. Right turns felt like wrestling gravity itself. Pilots who forgot this difference died before ever reaching the front. Accidents were common. Spins close to the ground. Nose dives that never recovered. Funeral details became routine. But something happened to those who survived the learning curve. They bonded with the Camel in a way no other aircraft inspired. It didn't forgive weakness, but it rewarded courage. Once a pilot learned its temper, the Camel became an extension of instinct, reacting faster than thought itself. By mid-1917, Camel squadrons were deployed aggressively. Patrols pushed deeper over enemy lines. Lone wolf engagements replaced cautious formations. The Camel didn't need protection, it created chaos. German pilots began to notice. Reports filtered back describing a new British fighter, small, aggressive, turning inside everything. It didn't flee. It pounced. It killed quickly. The Camel was no longer just another aircraft. It was becoming a legend. Air combat under the Camel was brutally intimate. There were no long chases. No drawn-out maneuvers. Engagements exploded into violence within seconds. Two aircraft spiraling around one another, engines howling, wind tearing at goggles and nerves. Camel pilots learned to attack from below, climbing hard into the enemy's blind spot. They fired at impossibly close range. Fabric ripped. Fuel ignited. Men vanished into smoke. Aces were born not through strategy, but instinct. Pilots like William Barker and others racked up kills at a terrifying pace. The Camel allowed them to take risks no other aircraft could survive. Vertical climbs. Sudden reversals. Brutal snap turns that left opponents helpless. German pilots began issuing quiet warnings. If you see the Camel, don't turn with it. But war has a way of forcing choices. By late 1917, the Camel had become the most effective killing machine in the sky. Its victory count rose faster than any other Allied fighter. It didn't just challenge German air superiority, it shattered it. Yet the cost remained high. For every ace, there were dozens who never mastered the machine. The Camel killed friend and foe alike. Its reputation was earned in blood, British and German. And still, men climbed into its cockpit. Because the Camel offered something rare in war. A chance that by the time the Camel reached its bloody maturity, the sky no longer felt vast. It felt crowded, hunted, claustrophobic. Pilots climbed into combat knowing the odds had shifted. Not in favor of survival. In favor of decisiveness. Dogfights were no longer tests of endurance or patience. They were violent sprints, measured in seconds, decided by nerve. The Camel thrived in this environment. It attacked where others hesitated. It turned where others stalled. It punished predictability with merciless speed. German formations that once flew with calm discipline now fractured under sudden, chaotic assaults. The Camel didn't circle. It plunged. It didn't probe defenses. It shattered them. Veteran pilots described the sensation as falling into the fight rather than entering it. The engine roared so loudly it drowned out fear. The guns vibrated through the cockpit, their rhythm merging with the pilot's heartbeat. There was no time to think, only to act. And act they did. Victories stacked quickly. Squadrons that once struggled to survive now dictated engagements. Pilots who had buried friends weeks earlier found themselves hunting the men who had ruled the skies. The balance tipped, not slowly, not politely, but violently. Yet the Camel remained unforgiving. A moment's lapse. A misjudged turn. A flick of hesitation, and the aircraft would betray its pilot as brutally as any enemy bullet. Survivors carried this knowledge into every engagement. They flew not with confidence, but with respect bordering on fear. It was this razor's edge that forged legends. One pilot recalled climbing after a fleeing enemy, his Camel shuddering at the edge of a stall, the engine screaming in protest. He could have backed off. He didn't. He fired. The enemy aircraft folded inward, wings tearing loose like paper in a storm. There was no celebration, only silence. And if you're gripping this moment with me, feeling the tension, the risk, the fragile line between mastery and death, make sure to hit subscribe. More waits just ahead. The story only grows darker from here. Because the Camel was about to face its greatest test. The enemy always adapts. It is one of war's few constants. German pilots began studying the Camel with obsessive focus. They learned its strengths, and more importantly, its weaknesses. They avoided turning fights. They attacked from altitude. They used coordinated dives and disciplined retreats. New aircraft arrived to counter it. Faster, heavier, armed with improved firepower. For the first time since its rise, the Camel was challenged. But challenge did not mean defeat. Camel pilots responded not with caution but evolution. They learned to fight vertically, to use the aircraft's brutal climb to break engagements, to attack in pairs, one drawing fire, the other striking from below. Dogfights grew more complex, more desperate. The sky filled with intersecting spirals of aircraft, smoke trails crossing like scars. Battles stretched across miles, pulling in reinforcements until entire sectors of the front became airborne battlegrounds. Losses mounted. Some days, half a squadron failed to return. Pilots stopped asking who would survive the war. They asked only whether they would survive the day. Letters home grew shorter. Jokes grew darker. The Camel's cockpit became both a sanctuary and a coffin. And yet, its kill count continued to rise. No Allied aircraft destroyed more enemy fighters. No machine reshaped air combat more completely. The Camel didn't just win fights. It forced the enemy to fight differently. The psychological impact was devastating. German pilots spoke of the Camel in quiet, uneasy terms. It wasn't unbeatable, but it was unpredictable. And unpredictability in the sky was deadly. By the war's later stages, air superiority no longer belonged to one side absolutely. It shifted daily, sometimes hourly. But one truth remained constant. Where the Camel flew, the sky was never safe. Strip away the canvas and wood, the engine oil and gun smoke, and what remained were men, young, exhausted, terrified men, trying to survive something that defied human limits. The Camel did not create heroes. It revealed them. Pilots aged years and months. Their hands shook on the ground and steadied in the air. They learned to read clouds like terrain, to sense danger through instinct rather than sight. Many flew despite wounds. Some flew knowing their luck had already run out. Victory came with a cost. Nightmares followed them home. Silence replaced laughter. Survivors struggled to explain what it meant to fight alone at altitude, knowing that a single mistake would send them spiraling into nothingness. And still, they climbed back into the Camel, because it gave them agency. In a war dominated by artillery and attrition, the Camel offered something rare: control. A chance to fight back directly, to see the enemy, to act. When the war finally ground toward its end, the Camel's role diminished. New aircraft took its place. The skies changed again. But the damage was done. The Camel had rewritten the rules. When the engines finally fell silent, the Sopwith Camel remained, parked on muddy airfields, stored in hangars, dismantled for parts, or left to rot under open skies. Its pilots went home. Or didn't. History tallied numbers. victories, losses, production figures. But numbers could not capture what the camel truly was. It was a paradox, deadly yet delicate, unstable yet dominant, feared by enemies and respected by those who survived it. It demanded everything from its pilots, and gave them the means to change the course of the air war. More enemy aircraft fell to the camel than to any other Allied fighter. But its real legacy wasn't measured in wreckage, it was measured in transformation. Air combat would never be the same. Tactics evolved. Aircraft design shifted. Training hardened. The camel proved that agility could outweigh speed, that aggression could overwhelm discipline, and that mastery, not machinery, decided survival. Today, preserved examples sit quietly in museums, their fabrics smooth, their engines silent. Children stare at them with wonder. Historians debate their statistics. But those who flew them remember something else entirely. The moment the wheels left the ground. The instant the sky stopped being empty. The second when fear sharpened into clarity. And in that narrow cockpit, suspended between earth and oblivion, the Sopwith Camel became what it was always meant to be. Not just a machine of war, but a weapon that taught the sky how to kill, and how to be conquered.